V number V220041, November the 4th, VX, VX128758.
Right. Oh, I'm sorry, that 220041, that was VS.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was my choco number. What do you call it?
Your militia number. When you were in the militia.
Yeah, militia number, that's what it is.
Interviewer Keith Hallett. Bill, what were you doing before you enlisted?
I worked in the post office, Mildura Post Office, on the counter.
What led you to enlisting?
They said, come here.
And how did you feel about it when you did enlist?
I was quite happy.
Yes.
I had enlisted in the AIF earlier, and the doctor knocked me back for kidney trouble. And I got called up for the militia. The same doctor passed me. I went to my own doctor and he said, you haven't got kidney trouble? I reckon our postmaster worded him up. I'm sure of that, to knock me back, anyway.
And you went straight to Darley?
Yeah, I went from Belcombe up to Darley. I was in Belcombe in the 7th Battalion. That's what I was called up for, the 7th Battalion.
How old were you when you enlisted?
20.
And when you got to Darley, did you feel that you were well trained?
No. I was only 6 weeks all told and I was in New Guinea. Although I felt the training was sufficient, I didn't know, I knew how to handle a rifle and all that sort of thing.
Because you were a country boy.
I was a country boy from Mervyn.
And can you remember Christmas Day 1941, just before you entrained?
We were in Darley by then, weren't we?
Yeah.
Yes, I can. It was a hot day. A few of us went down to a creek and stripped off and paddled around in this creek. And we had free beer in tin pannikins and tasted bloody awful.
And within days you were on the train to Sydney, is that right?
Yep. Yeah, we embarked at Bacchus Marsh and travelled to Sydney and went from the train to the Aquitania at Woolloomooloo. Now, 60 years later, I was in Woolloomooloo and I could remember everything that happened when I was there. We even took our greatcoats and all sorts of things. You could stagger a few yards at a time and you'd drop it, and pick it up and get going. And getting up the plank or up the gangway, it was a terrible job.
Why were you carrying a greatcoat to go to New Guinea?
Yeah, well, that's the authorities for you. We sort of thrown it away before we got on the gangplank. No, we carried all sorts of things that was not necessary. The minute we got to New Guinea, we all put our greatcoats in a pile, dumped them, they asked us to all put them there. I don't know where they went then.
When you boarded the Aquitania, did you know where it was going?
Yes, we were going to Port Moresby right from the word go. We were garrisoned to go to Port Moresby to relieve the 49th Battalion. So we knew where we were going. That was probably some of the novelty of it, you know.
And the trip on the Aquitania, did it go straight to New Guinea or did it?
It took 7 days,
Yeah.
and it could have done it in a couple of days at least. It seemed to deviate all around the country. I don't know whether the Japs were around then.
So obviously that wasn't worrying you. A Jap sub didn't worry you.
No,
No.
no, it was a lovely trip on the Aquitania. We all had a bed, sheets and things. I had a mate, George Darling, that when we first went on, he missed out on his bed. And the officer said, "Oh, come with me. I'll give you a bed for the night, and you can find." He couldn't find his bed, see, because we were given our beds, and then they said, "Grab your best gear, it's tea time." Then he couldn't find it again, so he spent the night on deck. Next morning he started. Anyway, eventually someone found it for him, but they were amazed, those big ships. Steps go down that way and up that way, down that way and down that way. Have you been on a big ship?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know.
Well, what about coming into port at Port Moresby? Your first trip, I would imagine, to a foreign country?
Yep, it was mine. The natives came out and we threw coins to them, and they dived down, brought it up, put it in their mouth, swam around again until we threw another. It was all interesting.
Yes.
I found it.
Where was your first billet? Where did you go after you got off?
We marched 7 miles out and slept on rocks that night. So just later said, "Oh, I'll stop here and sleep." And it was a hillside. It was all rocky. You sort of wiggled your hips. We were that tired that we slept. But the mosquitoes, well, I reckon everybody got malaria straight away because we got ravaged with them.
But they had mosquito nets.
A week later, we spent a week. They were on the bottom of the ship. Everything else was on top of them. Whoever loaded them in Melbourne or wherever had no idea.
What sort of things did you do in that first week? What jobs were there?
Unloaded the ships. Went guard on the powerhouse. Now you got me.
Right. Was there a sense that there was an enemy near you? Was there a sense of the presence of an enemy?
No,
No.
not at that time. It wasn't long before Singapore fell. Then we knew it was coming.
Did you feel prepared?
No. We never had any yak or anything like that. And the first bombing raid Morse we got, I was on guard. It was 2:00 in the morning. I was sitting on a rock, doing up my boots, going on guard at 2:00. And I looked up at this noise and 14 planes. And I thought, what lovely formation they've got. I was watching them, and all of a sudden, it hit me. That's what I'm there for. See, I stirred the camp out after that. We had a sergeant named Martirana. He'd been in the army a fair bit. George Doring and I went in unloading a ship, and they had a stack of pink blankets, all soft blankets compared to ours. So we nicked a couple, and we got back at 2 o'clock in the morning, tired as can be, and I just spread my blanket out. And in doing so, I spread a centipede about that long, about 4 o'clock in the morning. I felt this bite in my leg, then the final one shot me out of bed, tired as I was. Oh boy, they sting. I raced out and this Sergeant Martirana, who'd been in the army a bit, and I woke him up. I said, centipede just bit me, what can I do about it? He said, go and bite it back. And turned over. There.
Well, that does raise a question, doesn't it? What were the hospital facilities like in Port Moresby for those who needed them?
Well, all I know that was, I didn't know of any hospital. All I know was a lot have got dysentery, and that was just out in the open. You dug a hole and stuck it in the hole.
Now, you mentioned the first time you saw the Japanese in formation. Can you remember the first time that the bombs fell around you? No, not the first bombing raid.
I suppose they fell that night.
Yes.
We got there on the 3rd of January and they bombed us on the 3rd of February. How's that? My senile old brain.
Some things you don't forget.
What's your first reaction when you're being bombed? What did you do?
Died in a slit trench. We'd been digging trenches ever since we got there. Latrine and slit trenches. We only had latrine. A trench for a latrine is just straddled the trench. And to dive in. What do you reckon when we dived into a trench? It was chocolate rock full of mosquitoes.
Of course.
Boy,
Yes.
they would flew. Mosquitoes.
Were you there when the Kitty Hawks arrived?
Yeah. Much to my disgrace, I let fly a few shots at them. You couldn't blame us altogether. We stuck a few bullets in those Kitty Hawks. One hit a pad right behind his head. That's how lucky he was. The Zeros had been coming in, zoom. They come in that fast, you could hardly get a shot, or you weren't ready, you know. By the time you got ready, they were gone again. And this day, these couple of planes did the same thing. We were ready and waiting, and we all let fly. And all they had on them was a little strip down the tail. They'd never had anything on the wings, you know, to note who they were. And we all let fly. These two blokes went ahead of 75 Squadron. They went on ahead of the rest of the squadron to give the chaps in Moresby a bit of a thrill, but we gave them the thrill. Yeah.
And where were you when the McDouey was bombed?
I was in a few miles inland. Some units of the 39th were unloading it. We lost a couple of men on that. I don't know how many now. I wasn't. I was back at camp. We did shifts, you know.
Now, you had a special job, didn't you, as time went on, with your post office training? As a signaller with Morse code?
That was later on. They picked out some fellas as spotters. They were going to have 3 rings, not complete rings, of 30 miles out, 60 miles out, and 90 miles out. And they'd hear the Jap bombers coming over. the 30-mile ones that notify Moresby, then the 60, then the 90. That gave our Kitty Hawks time to get up and meet them. And I got chosen as a spotter. And when they were to go out, they decided to teach the elementary Morse. So the bloke teaching them said to me, "Don't you think you're going to learn this?" I said, "I think I'm a bit advanced on what you're going to do." And he said to send me that. So showing off, I rattled it off as fast as I could. Truth, he said I couldn't, if I wasn't following you, I couldn't have read it. So in future, you're the instructor. So I got appointed an instructor. When he went back, if this is boring, you tell me.
No, go. Keep going.
When he went back, the captain of the SIG said, "Hey, aren't you teaching those fellas Morse code?" "Oh," he said, "I had a win. We got a PMG bloke."
Oh,
I gave it to him. Oh, the captain said, "We're not going to waste him over there. Bring him over here." Next thing I was on a great big set working to Melbourne and Sydney and Adelaide, Brisbane rather. And
so how long did you stay in Port Moresby?
I don't know, I'd have to think for a long time, think when I left there. I was brought home because of the condition of my skin. I had a shocking skin and inherited from my mother, and I never took to the topics too well at all. And I was in hospital in Moresby, and a dermo came in and he said send him home, fresh food and cooler climate, and he'll never do any good up here. So I got sent home. I suppose I was only there about 8 months, all told. But the skin was never, still isn't. Look at it. I grafted all that. They're the grafts. The donor graft shows up more than the recipient.
Some of the men had already gone over the track, hadn't they, while you were still there?
They're just leaving. They were just going.
Was there any knowledge? Did the word get around what life would have been like on the track, or was it a big unknown to everyone?
It was a big unknown. We didn't realise the Japs had landed on the north coast and were coming over. And of course we were on the south coast and going over too.
Yes.
And met in the middle of them, bang. See, then you got the Kokoda Track. It's not the Kokoda Trail,
Yes.
it's the Kokoda Track. It was an old mule track.
Were some of your mates, did you know many of the men who went over?
What was that?
Did you know many of the men who went onto the track?
Yes, all the men I was with. I saw them go. I was up at Koitaki or somewhere, and I saw them going, and I was envious of them. Said goodbye to a lot of them. And said, I should be with you, you know. Getting shot into this SIG show.
Now, you got malaria, didn't you?
Well, yes, I've got a bit of it, but my record show I have, yes.
How long did that stay with you?
No time at all.
Right.
I never got much of a dose. Bit feverish and so on, but I used to do that as a kid. Mum reckoned I used to get a fever quickly, so I don't really know that I had malaria properly.
Did you always feel the fear of tropical diseases? Was that a normal thing when those mosquitoes, you knew mosquitoes brought malaria, didn't you?
Yeah,
So you must have expected it.
yeah. Well, we got nets after a week, and since we had tea, we shot under those nets and smoked and burnt the nets and all sorts of things.
What sort of a town was Port Moresby?
Oh, good.
Yeah?
Oh, yes. Now, by the time we got there, no one had any money. So before I left Belcombe, I had another account in the Commonwealth Bank. I reckoned it'd be a Commonwealth Bank in Port Moresby. So I put some money in the Commonwealth Bank in Port Moresby while I was still at Belcombe. We were on guard in Moresby one day. We were out in the bush somewhere, and no one had any money. And so when I went on guard, I went up to Burnsville or Adelaide steamships or somewhere, and I bought buns and lemonade. I came home loaded with the chaps reckoned I was a magician to have some money. But I just went into the Commonwealth Bank up there and I said, did I have an account in my name? He said, yeah, sign your name. I signed my name. He said, you can have whatever the limit was, whatever I put in. So I had a little bit of forethought there.
I'd like to ask you a little bit about the money side of things. How much were you paid initially? What was the going rate?
$5 bob.
$5 bob.
Yeah.
That money was paid into an account in Australia.
It was in your pay book anyway. And you had it credited in your pay book.
And you could access that from time to time.
Yeah, you went to the paymaster once a week, once a fortnight or whatever, put your book in, and he'd give you
But what could you spend your money on up there?
cigarettes.
Now, when you became
Yeah,
in a signaller, was there a higher rate of pay for
yes, yes. As I said before, a major came out and tested me, and I didn't know why he made me send that signal at all, but then I noticed in the pay book I got an increase, probably only a shilling or something.
that? But that was significant, wasn't it?
Oh, yes. Yes, I know I went from 5 bob to 12 anyway.
Right.
I've always remembered that.
But that wasn't the first increase. The first increase was only 1 shilling, wasn't it?
Yeah. Everybody got a shilling increase at one stage from 5 bob to 6. And then I got an increase as grade 2 operator, Morse operator. And then I got more as a corporal and more as a sergeant. And it went from originally 5 bob to 12 bob. I got an extra shilling because we're in Dutch territory. Exchange rate. Yeah.
You were out of the 39th, but though by then, weren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You worked as a signaller, and you said you were envious when you saw the others going across the track. Didn't you realise just how important your job was? You couldn't see the relevance of your job.
We couldn't see that.
What exactly did you do as a signaller?
What did I do?
As a signaller, what did a signaller do?
Well, they had a great big set, as big as a little house, and we used to call up Townsville in Sydney And the messages had come through from headquarters in Moresby, and we used to send them to Melbourne by Morse, to Melbourne or Sydney or Townsville. And then the war correspondence, they'd send reams and reams of it, and we'd be there all night sending this stuff. We got smart and finished because we were all night sending it. Oscar White and those fellas. The sun is shining serenely. The birds are singing in the trees. Everything is peaceful and beautiful. And suddenly the serenity is interrupted by the drone of approaching jet bombers, you know. All this tribe. And Port Moresby was bombed by 14 or whatever. And so on. We just get look at all their rubbish pages of it. And we'd say, we'd make a pricing of it, you know. 14 Japanese bombers bombed Port Moresby. That was all we'd said.
Yeah.
Oh, we never had time to send it all.
What sort of messages would headquarters want to send back?
All in code. We never knew.
You didn't know yourself?
No idea. When OEQ was the top rating, serious rating
Yes.
for a landing of some sort. And I received an OEQ, and it was the Japs landing on the north coast of Papua.
Did you realise what it was?
No, I had no idea.
So it's not as if you'd be the first to hear any special news?
No.
Ah.
I knew it was something very important because OEQ was top priority.
Yeah.
And I didn't realise it was that so serious.
How many signallers would there have been? A number of you? A fair number?
No, we were not. 3. We never got much time to sleep, you know.
No.
We just get a bit of sleep, and I'd go to sleep with my tin hat on the table, with my head in the hat.
What about the line of communication that went over the track? Were you connected to that as well?
No, I'd finished by then. I don't know what it was, where it was.
And what about your personal communications? Could you write and receive letters?
Yep. Yes, that was no trouble. And you could send, your people could send parcels to you and that sort of thing.
And you received a few from Mildura?
Oh, yes, yes.
What sort of things would be in a personal parcel?
Oh, powder and, you know, Johnson's baby powder.
Talcum powder, yeah.
Because you got tinea badly in the feet, in the groin, around your crutch. You had to keep it very dry, and because when you got it there, it was really serious, you know. And a lot of places had bowls of condies in water, and when you had a shower, you stepped in these condies foot bath before you dried yourself to stop tinea.
What about food? What sort of meals were available?
Oh, bully beef and M&V, which is meat and vegetables. All that good. You could eat the bully beef that the M&V bought.
Do you eat bully beef today, or have you had enough?
No, I've even got a tin in my fridge at home.
Okay.
Here,
Obviously, it's habits forming.
No, I don't eat it really. I bought a few tins and I'd get it cold and slice it and have it with veggies or something. And I didn't mind it, but I soon got sick of it again. Oh, funny thing about that, I had a mate, Ken Hudson in Merbein. We used to go camping a lot. And he had a tin of M&V or something. Emergency rations, he called it, when we went camping. And he had it that long that all the paint wore off it. It was just a shiny metal thing. One day we're down the river, around Ned's Corner, and they had a fire going. And there was an explosion in the fire. Boom, she went. It blew the fire all over our tarp, burnt the tarp. Oh, I said, did you throw a grenade in the fire? No, he said, I threw our emergency rations, and he never pricked the tin.
Yes.
Holy smoke. Did it go off?
Did you feel that the Australian people were interested in what you were doing?
Yes.
And that you were prepared?
Yep. Yes. When the Aquitania left Sydney, the people lined up on the other side in the hundreds. They all knew where we were going. Oh, everybody did. And they sang the Maoris farewell. Every time I hear it now, I think of that lesson.
Yeah.
Departure from Sydney. Now is the hour when
We must say goodbye.
And I believe some of the girls waved various pieces of apparel to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about special friends that you had in New Guinea? Can you do any come to mind?
Yeah, George Dyring was my mate all the time, but he's dead now. He only lived at 47 or something. He got wounded. He went over the track. He got dysentery. Now, anything you like to name, George got it. I never got dysentery, thank goodness. They let George out of the dysentery hospital, as they called it, which was a smelly old place. And we made a hole in the ground, got all our ground sheets, put them in the hole, filled it with water, and got George and scrubbed him. It was beautiful. He'd been out in Dysentery Hill for 8 days or something. There was no facilities.
Yes.
Well, they got a rush of dysentery, you know, everybody was getting it.
Yes.
When did you leave New Guinea and why did you leave?
Skin trouble,
Yes.
yeah. I finished up in a hospital up there and they got a dermo over from Australia that'd been putting ointments on me, yellow ointments, green ointments, you know, Microzole and those things. And they got this dermo over from Australia and he just stood at the end of the bed. Oh, he said, send him home. He's cooler climate and fresh food and you got no hope of getting him better here. So I was on the next ship then. The funny thing about it, my papers were marked not to go into the tropics again. I was boarded B class, not to go into the tropics again. I finished up in the Netherlands, East Indies, 1 degree off the equator. Not to go on the tropics anymore. And I never had any trouble.
So what was different then to New Guinea? I wonder why you didn't have any trouble the next time.
Yes, well, I was a clerk up there in a big hut that was quite cool by those standards. And the Yanks used to come over in a plane all low down, and there was a big fog coming out of it. And we never saw a mosquito. They killed the lot. And that was marvellous.
Yes.
You could lay out without your shirt, you know. No mosquitoes. Ooh.
One would think, in summing up this interview, that the main enemy was the mosquito.
Oh, yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Phil.
Before they went over the track, yes.
Yes.
The main enemy was the mosquito. Over that first week, goodness me, we had a driver, German name, Schultz or something. You know Kangamore?
Yes.
Well, Schultz was up the hill a bit on the rocks, and the mosquitoes getting into him. And Kanga was down a bit further. Schultz had been driving and he went into Moresby that day and he got onto some rocks somewhere. And half the mosquitoes worried him a lot. He started blaming Kanga for it. And he spent the night abusing poor old Kanga. Kanga goes sending them all up here. Why don't you keep some for yourself?
But there was enough to go round.
Oh yes, plenty to go around.
Well, I think we've probably come to the end. We'll let you relax a little bit now, and thank you on behalf of the 39th Battalion. Thank you very, very much for sharing your memories with us.
It's a pleasure.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.